you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. I am Jimmy Murphy. My co-host Pierre McGuire will be joining me in about 10 minutes. He is busy doing his radio hit in Pittsburgh with Mark Madden, talking some Penguins there. Speaking of the Penguins, congratulations to Chad Rudeweedle. I always pronounce his name wrong. We'll have to get Pierre because he is the pronunciation king. But he retired. He was part of that 2017 Pittsburgh Penguins Stanley Cup Championship team, and he called it a career today. So congratulations to him. So yeah, we're going to be talking probably a little Penguins. We'll talk, we'll bounce around, we'll go wherever you want, obviously in the Q&A. But we will be focusing and honing in on the Dallas Stars right about when Pierre joins me, as Pierre and I will be joined by Sean Shapiro, long time of The Athletic, and now he works for DLLS Sports. Again, that's the Twitter handle or X handle, whatever you want to call it, is at DLLS_sports. You can find his Dallas Stars coverage there. He's covered the Stars for a long time now. He also writes for Elite Prospects and has his own Substack page, Shap Shots, and also did a movie, a little beer league type movie called A Late Game Movie. I don't know what that's about, but we'll ask him about that. And he does a podcast focused on analytics called The Expected by Whom podcast. So Sean Shapiro will be joining us shortly to talk some Dallas Stars. He also wrote an interesting article on his Substack page. And also, if you want to find that, I'll pull that up right now. Let's see. The Substack page for Sean Shapiro. If you go, it's called Shap Shots on Substack. So it's shapshotshockey.com on Substack there. So give that a look there. But he wrote an interesting piece about how the new ESPN NFL deal could pay, and ESPN, if you know, just bought the rights to Red Zone, which was strictly on NFL Network before. But now ESPN owns that. And he was saying, given that ESPN is also one of the rights holders for the NHL, could the NHL wind up doing a red zone type show? Now, I know every game night or every night pretty much during the season, the NHL Network does that. But as Sean pointed out in the story, I urge you to go read it after the podcast here. As Sean pointed out in the story, that's kind of a niche channel, right? Not every cable network has it. And if you don't, you got to pay a ton of extra to get it. And, it's always in like a certain tier, that whether it's the advanced or the pro or premium, and you got to pay extra to get it, right? So a lot of people don't end up having NHL Network. They might have the channel they want to see to watch their local team. Of course, they get blacked out there. We'll get into that later. Some other news on that too. But anyhow, Sean was talking about why doesn't the NHL try to do this on ESPN at least once a week? They do the NHL Frenzy, right? Like I think twice a year, but they're totally missing out on an opportunity right now. And so I read that story and I actually looked into it with some of my NHL league sources, and it's something that has definitely been bantered about, that the league is pushing about. It's more the network that hasn't warmed up to it yet. So it's something that is being seriously talked about that could come to the NHL as soon as this season. So we'll talk to Sean about that when he joins us. And of course, like I said, we'll talk some Dallas Stars, a team who, I don't know. I mean, what have they done this offseason, right? Like have they really had a great offseason? Like what they obviously picked up Mikko Rantanen in season and signed him to an extension, right? But it's like, have they really made a splash that you thought they would? We all heard Jason Robertson was getting traded. He's still a Dallas Star. So where are they right now? What's are they that much improved from where they were last year? I don't think they need to improve that much, to be honest. I think it's just now about them learning to take all the lessons they've learned, making it to the conference finals, right? Twice, was it 2 years, right? And making it that far, and applying that and getting over the hump. And I mean, obviously the Eastern Conference equivalent of them would be the guy they got Mikko Rantanen from, and that's the Carolina Hurricanes. So we'll get into that. We'll get Sean's take on that. But just other than that, I mean, we're kind of in those dog days of the summer of the hockey off season. I just actually talked to Billy Guerin of the Minnesota Wild, the former home Minnesota of the Dallas Stars. Yesterday, I'll be putting up some stories this week from that interview with him on RG Media. So I urge you to check that out. Also have some interesting stuff going on about how the NCAA commissioners in hockey and the CHL commissioners are handling, the new agreement between the CHL and NCAA. So we'll probably get into some stories probably next week that will be out on RG, and we'll talk about it here as well as we already dive into that. And speaking of college hockey, don't forget, Pierre and I will be back at the Friendship 4. Want to thank Cara Group Travel, of course, for sending us there and putting us up. We're really looking forward to that. Thank the Belfast Giants as well, and all the hockey teams involved. So we'll be over there for the men's tournament, American Thanksgiving weekend at the end of November, and then again at the end of December into the new year, we'll be there for the women's tournament. So we're really looking forward to broadcasting again live from Dublin and then Belfast, both in November and December/January. I'm psyched about that. I might campaign to just stay there for the month. I don't know if that's gonna fly, but we'll see. I'll do my best. It's like why go there and come back and go there and just let's just do the whole month there. I don't know. We'll run it by Pierre when he comes on. So we'll see what's going on there. Some good news is one of our viewers is listening at it right now. Says, don't forget the Ottawa news. Yes, they have finally signed the contract to get that land at LeBreton Flats. But as my co-host Pierre McGuire pointed out, and I'm sure he will again, let's pump the brakes on the excitement. It's a small step towards getting that arena there. Because as Pierre has pointed out, folks, they are going into a swampland, a toxic waste swampland. There is just tons of toxic waste that needs to be cleaned out of there. And it's going to take at least 2 to 3 years from what Pierre's hearing for all that to happen. So, if we're looking at it, just based on what Pierre has told me and what some people in Ottawa have told me, you're not seeing an arena there, I think, at least until 2030, maybe later, probably later. So, don't believe all these news reports out there. Oh, it's on its way. It's coming right now. Slow down. And you notice, too, I haven't seen one report give a timeline. And there's a reason for that, because they know that timeline is long and they don't want that to be out there. But that's the truth. And it's going to come out. They're going to have to face it sooner or later and give a concrete timeline to the fans and the team on when that can happen. So we'll get into that a little, I'm sure, after we talk to Sean. I'm sure Pierre will bring that up. And anything else you want to talk about, obviously, hit us up in the Q&A there. And yes, Randy, I know ESPN has WEE. They get on everything right now. But the one thing I got to say, maybe the NHL does benefit from all these mergers that ESPN is making with leagues and all that. But at the same time, I sometimes get worried that just pushes the NHL further down the totem pole when it comes to ESPN, right? Like they're already kind of, the wicked stepchild sometimes. I don't think they get enough respect, both from ESPN and TNT. I think TNT gives them a little more, but I would say that I just hope that as ESPN accumulates all these other properties and deals, it doesn't hurt the NHL and their stature there. All right, we've got Pierre McGuire and Sean Shapiro. Let's bring them in right now. I think we got both of them. There's Pierre and there's Sean Shapiro. Sean, welcome to the eye test. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. You had quite the whip around there, from planning trips to Ireland to telling me about toxic waste in the swamp. So I've got quite the quite the range of emotions coming into this right now.
There
So
you go. That's what we do. We cover all aspects of the game here. Pierre, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm fantastic. Mark Madden from Pittsburgh says hello, Jimmy. Sean,
All
nice
right.
to visit with you.
Hello
too.
back to him. And Pierre, as I was saying, a former Penguin, just retired today. Stanley Cup champion, right?
Yeah, Chad Ruedel, what a great career. Here's a guy that never was drafted, kid from San Diego, California. Couldn't say enough good things about him. With the Penguins in 16 and 17, when they won the Cup in 17, he played a little bit more, was more apparent. I know he was a favorite of Mike Sullivan and the coaching staff in Pittsburgh, and, had an amazing career. Didn't get to 400 games, just a little light of 400, but 13 years of pro hockey as an undrafted player at University of Massachusetts Lowell. Amazing career, awesome guy, and I wish him nothing but the best. He had a fantastic career.
Yeah, congratulations to him. All right, Sean. You know what? We'll get into the stars in a bit. But what piqued my interest was that great article you wrote on your Substack page concerning the potential of the NHL following the NFL with the whole red zone theme. And I love it. I think it's great. I hope it can happen. I'm gung ho about it. But just what's your take on where that stands right now?
Yeah, and so just to be clear, right off, and I even put it in there, like this is a logistical. There's certain challenges that the business makers and decision makers have to make for such a thing to happen. But now we do have the tools are in place, and it's kind of funny because you said before, as and you're leading to this, where with ESPN, the NFL merger, there's the question of where is this all going to go? Is the NFL going to come in and be a 10% owner of ESPN with the ideology of, hey, we make it more and more of the 4-letter NFL network, or we kind of grow everything? And it's obviously, I think one of the big initial thoughts people had when the NFL licensed the Red Zone name, right? So now ESPN has the right to use that Red Zone name for anything. And I think college football in the United States is what a lot of people thought they would use it for. But now there's a spot in my view on this. And after writing, I checked to make sure I wasn't completely out to lunch, and I'm not. There's now, if ESPN and the NHL wanted to build out a similar NHL Red Zone NHL package, they now have the right to do that with the name through ESPN, and ESPN already has all the rights to the out-of-markets games. There might be a little bit of a finagling here and there for the two sides work together on maybe with those National Turner games, maybe those wouldn't be included, but there is something now where if you're ESPN and you're serious about, hey, we're going to grow the sport and we're going to try to do this and we're going to try to use all these properties at our disposal, you could go and create something on whether it's a Tuesday night thing, one of those Tuesday, we all know it's a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday league, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you could build it out on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, something like that, where you could kind of go into that whip around live show using the Red Zone name. And from my perspective of it, just Red Zone is such I think in the United States has evolved past the football term. Like we know it means within the 20-yard line, but I think it's become more synonymous with the TV network and something people watch 6 to 8 hours a day on Sundays. Yep. You have that audience, meet people where they're at. There's an opportunity now that the name's available that if the NHL was smart, you're reaching out to ESPN, you're talking to Jimmy Pitaro about it. You're doing all of that right now of how do we use this name to get more eyeballs on this sport? Now, will they do it? Great question, but it's at least my dream world on it. So.
I hate to be rude. They actually have done it. I was on the first ever show. We did it in 2000.
Oh, wow.
When the NHL started the NHL network, TSN and the NHL were partners. And so there actually was a form of that. Darren Detition and I actually did it. And then when Darren moved on to bigger things at TSN, I worked with Jay Onrait on it.
Yeah.
So this has actually been done before, and it was I believe it was done before the Red Zone was even going.
Yeah.
It wasn't nearly as thorough. It wasn't nearly as thorough, but it was very, very similar. And one of the things we did that was a little different than what they do in the Red Zone, we actually broke down the plays. Okay. Why did that goal go in? So the number one thing that people forget in the TV business, and it's really amazing when you watch a lot of games, is they don't show how. They don't show why. They just show the end result. Yeah. But the most important thing is how and why before you see the end. Mm-hmm. And so the best producers do that. If you watch an elite feed, that you'll see the pass through the neutral zone. You'll see the pick play on the cycle. You'll see the screen in front. That will lead to the goal. And so it makes, and then you see the money shot is the puck crossing the line, going in the net.
Right.
So broadcasting hockey's hard.
Oh yeah.
But like, okay, I'll use an example. Hockey's been at the forefront of this, Sean, I'd say for a long time. Like Inside the Glass was created by NBC.
Yep.
And look at all the sports now. Inside the Glass started in 2005, 06. Look at all the sports now.
Yep.
Every single one of them has an analyst on the field. Maybe it's in the dugout. Maybe it's on the sideline. Maybe it's, behind the end zone line. I know I did water polo at the Olympics, and the great Dick Ebersol said, "You're going to stand by the pool." And at Dick Ebersol come back for 2014, he wanted to be in the pool, underneath the water, calling the games. I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
So the NHL has actually been really good on this stuff. But you're not wrong. I think it would be a massive stroke of genius now if they ever did that. I really agree with that.
And to your point on broadcasting hockey, that's difficult. One of the biggest things that I think we need to acknowledge, right? The league, and I know that there are teams that have asked about this before. That, 35 seconds now from the goal goes in to the opening faceoff, right? Like I'm a big Premier League soccer guy, right? I watch the Premier League game every Saturday. Goal goes in. I get a minute and a half to learn about what happened. I get a minute and a half to see what happened. I get all of that.
Yeah.
From the broadcasting hockey perspective, the league itself with the quick, hey, we got 35 seconds or whatever it is from goal to puck drop, doesn't do itself any favors to give all of that. So the broadcasters themselves, this, where, hey, we're going to get the puck in the net and then I maybe get 6 seconds on either side. Like it's not that's just another soapbox for me league wise, where so often these goals happen, these things that determine the game, but just the league needs to open up a little bit. Even if we just went to 45 seconds, 50 seconds, it's not that long.
Yep.
Just create a little bit more of the how and why we got here, just from the league being willing to do that.
That's really well said. I totally agree with that. The how and the why is so important. And the other thing too is, depending on where it happens, the frenzy in the crowd, it picks up a little bit, or it becomes a little darker.
Yeah.
So, there's always that emotional part of it too. But I agree with what Sean said, Jimmy. I think those are some really good points. Really good.
Good stuff. All right, Sean, let's get into the team you know so well, the Dallas Stars. And just first off, your thoughts on the coaching change and why now? Obviously, I mean, there were some things that in the playoffs that dictated that, but where they go from now and also on the coach they brought in.
Yeah. Now, before we get to Glen Gulutzan, I think we got to go a little bit back to why Pete DeBoer is no longer here, right? Like anyone else goes to 3 straight Western Conference finals, still has a year on the contract. You're like, this guy's never losing his job. He's having success that other teams would kill for right now. And it's the interesting thing kind of as that all comes back, obviously the big Pete DeBoer and the Jake Ottinger rift at the end, that definitely was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, whatever word we want to use, that's the end. But one of the things that Jim Nill has been open about, and I've spoken to Jim about it earlier this summer, was he felt like Pete had exhausted all his options. And Pete might have been a little bit too honest mid-season about it, I've been here 3 years. I've pushed every button there is to push. I don't know what else there is to push. Now, Pete wasn't trying to lose his job. I want to be clear on that, but Pete was a bit too honest. And then when all of a sudden you see it wasn't the decision to pull the goalie that really led to the conversations with the players. Because a lot of the players in the exit meetings, you guys know every exit meeting, there's 15 to 6, there's going to be 7 or 8 players that are backstabbing the coach no matter what, right? Like that's not new, right? Like people act like, oh my God, the guys didn't like the coach. No, that happens in every organization in exit meetings at times. It was Jake Ottinger really is a big connector on that team. He's not just the starting goalie. He's the big connector on that team. He's the guy where we all know teams have cliques, right? Like the Stars have their Finnish players that all hang out together. They've got and Jake Ottinger was really a big connector for that team. He was the guy who, when the team would go, they golf all year in Dallas because you're able to do it. Jake Ottinger is the guy who was organizing golf outings with guys from Mason Marchment and him would often bring a lot of guys together to go golfing together. He was the one who he would, when the Finns were looking for saunas on the road, Jake was the guy who would find it. So not only was Jake the starting goalie, Jake was also the party planner, the connector to everyone, that everyone likes Jake Ottinger. And so when your coach goes and throws the hot water on him and then doesn't talk to him for 48 hours and has the time to talk to us media twice before that, that's when you kind of things went too far. So that's why Pete's gone, really. It's you've got to kind of wore out his welcome, admitted he pushed all his buttons and didn't handle one of the most important relationships with his players through his goalie. Glen Gulutzan comes in, and Glen's a fascinating case because Glen is technically the retread, right? Like, he was the coach of the Stars team for 2 years. He took team was right in the middle of and coming out of bankruptcy, a really hard chance for success. One of Jim Nill's first ever decisions as the Dallas Stars GM was to fire Glen Gulutzan, actually. So it's kind of so Glen comes in, though, and there's two parts of it. I think one is the Stars' biggest obstacle the past 2 years, as we all know, is the Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference Final. Glen has been right on the other side of that the past 2 years, literally part of the side of how do we break this team down and get down there. So that's part of it. You bring in a guy who has a little bit of the outside voice, even though with his past job history. The other thing about it is they're trying to look at this perspective of, if it is a Stars team that's going to take the next step. And I think we all agree. I think it's hard to say the Stars are a better team today than they were in the Western Conference Final. Like they don't have Mikael Granlund. They don't have, yes, they have Mikko Rantanen, but Mikko Rantanen was playing at a $4 million cap hit or whatever he was after the trade retention. So the Stars, if they're going to get back to where they were, they're going to have to do it a little bit differently. They're going to have to be harder to play against. They're going to have to find ways to, though all that depth scoring that delivered in the regular season, they're going to have to show up in the playoffs, and they got to be a little bit harder all the way across. So Glen Gulutzan's job is to basically come in from the outside, realize that your job is to basically take what you defeated the past couple years and help us figure out to get there. And it's a big risk for Jim, right? Like, one of my biggest pushbacks on it was that there was a couple people in Dallas local media who were like, oh, this is the cheap hire. You could have done this. This is a really risky hire by Jim. To go and hire a guy you fired before, a guy who has failed as a head coach twice before, just by the nature of it. This is a risky hire by Jim. Jim's really putting putting himself on the line of, I believe this is the guy, after we had a guy who we're paying $4.25 million not to coach this year because of what happened.
You know, I was really surprised that Neil Graham didn't get the job. He's done such a good job with the American Hockey League team. And you look at Maverick Bourque, and you look at Justin Ritzkovian, and you look at the development of all these young players coming through, filtering through. They're not coming through yet. They're filter through. And I thought, even though Neil's on the staff, I thought Neil had a real good chance. It must, you would know better than I, Sean, but it must have come down to those two guys at the end.
It was from all of my understanding of it. Those were that was the final decision where Jim Nill and Stars owner Tom Ghilardi, basically their final sit down was, okay, these are our two guys. Who's the best way to help the Stars take the next step? And I honestly think the team did Neil a long-term credit. Like, obviously he would like the bigger paycheck right now as a head coach and in that opportunity right now. But I do think that it's for Neil Graham's long-term push. And I know there's other NHL teams that have reached out about interviewing him for an assistant job, particularly to run the power play. So there's other teams that had reached out to Neil about that. But I do think for a guy who, and it's a great story, Neil Graham has played in the SPHL, was a player assistant in the ECHL. He's never coached above the AHL though. So he never coached a major junior. So he's never coached, he coached Maverick Bourque to an AHL MVP, and he's never coached the superstar. He's never coached the big ego type deal, right? The guy who's making $12 million. And I think Neil is a future NHL head coach. I truly believe that. I think he's a tremendous coach. I think this is the nice little soft stop for him, where maybe like something that happened with like Spencer Carberry, right? Where you get that a little bit of a couple years on an assistant, as an assistant, and then you get to kind of you bring in that last part of your resume of I can coach superstars, I can help them take the next step, and then do that. So I think Neil, long term for him, ended up in a really good spot. Now, obviously, this season, for the next couple of years, he's going to be Glen Gulutzan's assistant. He's not making as much money as he would otherwise. But I think long term, Neil Graham is going to look back on this favorably. He's also only, 41, 42. So there's some good time for Neil on that.
Hey, those per diem envelopes in the NHL are better than the AHL.
Oh,
and
for
the
sure.
bus rides are not, they don't exist in the NHL. So
Yeah,
it's going to be a little bit better for them.
Hey, Sean, I want to ask you about Jason Robertson. As the draft approached and pretty much into the first 2 weeks of free agency, all we heard was this guy was going to be on the move.
Yeah.
How close had you heard he may have been to being traded? And if so, why wasn't he traded to this point yet?
Yeah, and everything I heard about it was like there's a big difference between shopping we must sell and we're shopping for something of equivalent return. And I think that's one of the things that kind of got lost in the big media kind of cycle we're in right now. And plus, I don't blame people, right? Like, how do you fill headlines? How do you fill your paper between July 1st and July 20th, right? Like, you're going to go through and say like, hey, Jason Robertson would be a great fit here. So yes, the Stars did look at what a return could be on Jason Robertson. They did go through and do that from my full understanding of it. It also was never Jason Robertson was never going to move for, and this is to the fans out there, he was never going to move for your second favorite prospect and your third round pick, right? Like it was always going to be either for a roster player to come back where you could kind of get some of that point total back in kind of addition, or it was going to have to be part of some other bigger move, right? Like, I don't know how they would have made it work, but we know that Dallas had kicked around the idea of going after Mitch Marner, who obviously ended up in Vegas before he ever made it to free agency. But obviously, if they were going to get Mitch Marner, that amount of money to sign Mitch Marner would have had to come from somewhere. And then that would have been the other big move that then you move Jason Robertson for the prospects picks because you need to open up that cap space. So he's a fascinating player to me because he is such a good regular season player, because my view of playoff hockey is regular season hockey, you really only focus on yourself, right? You don't have the time yes, you do a pre-scout and all that, but at the end of the day, I'm playing. You're playing in Ottawa. If you're playing in Ottawa on Tuesday, you're playing in Montreal on Thursday, and you're playing in Boston on Saturday. You got to focus on yourself. There's a little bit of a pre-scout, but you're focused on yourself and on your team. And Jason Robertson was able to kind of thrive when teams aren't focusing on him. Now you get to the playoffs. We both know each other's flaws. We know we know what you're going to do. We know that Jason Robertson, he loves being off that flank. He loves that little shoot pass option. Okay, we go and take it from him. In the playoffs, he didn't adjust. And so he's such a fascinating player to me. And I think this would be one of the things where maybe Glen Gulutzan can bring this in. And to be clear, Jason Robertson is not Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid, but Glen Gulutzan can come in and say, hey, I worked with these other superstar players that adjusted in the playoffs, that found ways to alter their game so they can continue to be dangerous. That's what Jason Robertson needs. His playoff game is one that needs to be a little bit more unpredictable, because predictability works for game 1 through 82. The playoffs is when you need to change and prove that you have to make you have to win that chess match.
There's a lot of merit to what Sean's saying. There's one guy I want to ask you about, and then we'll let you go. But everybody talks about underappreciated or underrated players. I still, for the life of me, cannot understand how Miro Heiskanen doesn't get more light. It's killing me.
Yeah.
You know, when I was coaching the league, Scotty Niedermayer and Brian Leach were elite players, and everybody in the league knew them. Teppo Numminen was an elite player, but nobody really knew who Teppo was because he played in Winnipeg and Buffalo. But Miro Heiskanen has been in the Western Conference Final more than once. This guy's a spectacular player. How come nobody knows about him?
He is, if he is one of those guys where if you're going to go watch a hockey game and you just want to ISO a guy, just like watch one guy for the entire game, he is so fun to watch. Just between the skating stride, between the anticipation, the amount of times he just skates plays to death. And then I believe just the way he uses his stick on little poke checks is up there, top 3-4 in the world at doing that. I do, obviously being in the Western Conference Final has not been enough to get I do think that we saw how depleted the Finnish defense was at Four Nations, right? We saw because of his injury. We saw to the part where Esa Lindell, who doesn't even work on the power play in Dallas, is running the second power play for Finland, right? That's how depleted the Finnish defense was. We're now going to get, I think Miro's time to shine and grab the attention is the Olympics this year, because people are going to have the fresh kind of mind of, look how depleted this Finnish defense looked last year. Look how they looked at Four Nations. They looked a bit overmatched, everything like that. He's going to be playing 24, 25 minutes for Finland in the Olympics. I talked to Jiri Lehtinen about it about 2 weeks ago. Jiri is so excited about having a healthy Miro Heiskanen for this. I think that's the spot where people are going to see, that's going to be the moment for a lot of people when they see that and they see what he does on the international stage, because we haven't gotten that. We haven't gotten that for him. And obviously the Western Conference Finals haven't been enough. So maybe it's the Olympic there combined with the what wasn't there. It's the whole people try to give Peyton Manning MVP votes the year he was hurt. That was like watching Finland for me at Four Nations without Miro.
That's good.
Good stuff. Hey, listen, Sean, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Great
Sean.
stuff. We appreciate it. Very interesting. And we'll get you on sometime this season. All right.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Enjoy
you,
the
Sean.
rest
Great
of the
job.
Thanks,
Sean
guys.
Shapiro joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. And I agree 100% with you and Sean. Pierre, that guy deserves so much more recognition.
It's bizarre. I get it.
I get the market he's in. I understand.
I get all that stuff. It's like Josh Morrissey plays in a Canadian market. And is he as good as Heiskanen? No, they're different players.
Mm-hmm.
But they're both unbelievably underappreciated. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I know, like, Team Canada really appreciates Josh Morrissey, just like the Finns are going to really appreciate Miro Heiskanen. The fans just don't see these guys enough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. It really, the first time I really had major exposure to Miro was in the bubble in Edmonton.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He was so good, Jimmy. And I kept saying he reminds me of Brian Leach. He reminds me of Scotty Niedermayer. Maybe he's not as good as either, but there's so many characteristics that are similar to both of those players.
Yep.
I used to watch Miro the last 2 years, and I'm like, whoa, this guy's gone to a whole other level. Like, it's 3 years past that bubble, and he's gone to a whole other level.
Yeah, he was something else in that run too. And by the way, speaking of retired players, somebody from that team, the goalie who carried them, Anton Hudobin, retired recently as well. So
you were tight with him when he was in Boston.
Oh yeah, what a Pierre. Now you're going to be surprised, and I know a lot about this guy, but I do, just despite the fact I'm only 50. He had a bit of Gumper in him. He had a little Gump Worsley aura about him. I know Gumper's a legend, but in terms of just the personality and that dry sense of humor, I got to study Gump a lot because I helped my friend write a screenplay on him. And when I got to know Dobie a lot, I was like, man, this guy's like a European Gumper.
There's a lot of there. Believe it or not, Jimmy, I'm not going to disagree with you because I know Hudobin, and I obviously knew Gump Worsley, and did a lot of events with Gump and all the old Montreal Canadiens legends back in the day. And Gumper was the life of the party. He was funny as all get out. He was so funny. Hudobin's as he's got a witty, smart sense of humor.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. There's a lot of similarities there. Now, Hudobin's bigger. Gump was not a very big man. Hudobin's a big guy. But in terms of overall characteristic, I think you're spot on. I don't think you're wrong at all. I think you're right on.
Good stuff. All right, Pierre, before we get into the Q&A and get to our wonderful sponsor, Betway, anything that strike your mind in the last week or so, big news that, kind of made you think? Or?
Well, I think some of these guys better get to work because a lot of them are selling stuff in the media and the social media side of it, and they're setting their fans up for disappointment.
100%.
I'm just telling you, Jimmy, and I'm not going to say the teams. I'm not going to say the managers because there's still runway for them to get work done. But I'm just telling you, Jimmy, I've never seen more pronouncements early from managers and PR people like what I'm seeing now. And I don't know if that's just because of the advent of social media, but people are reading it.
Yeah.
And they're setting themselves up for bad. They're not managing expectation properly. What made Detroit so good for so long? Jimmy Devellano, Kenny Holland, and Scotty Bowman managed the expectation on the team all the time. What made New Jersey so good for so long? Lou Lamoriello, and Jacques Lemaire and Larry Robinson and eventually Pat Burns managed expectation unbelievably well. What made Pittsburgh so good? Badger Bob, Scotty Bowman, Mike Sullivan, all those Cup teams, and even Danny Bilesma. I was around the team all the time. They managed the expectation amazingly well at the management level and at the coaching level. I think all these guys, these new guys in particular, have come in the league. They didn't read the script.
Yeah.
They didn't read the script, man.
And you're right. They're setting themselves up, because you're overselling. And if it doesn't happen, and some of these things that you're sort of promising, there's a good chance it can happen. Like, you're not there yet. I mean, again, we're not going to name the teams, but some of these teams that are doing this, what happens when you don't reach that goal that you promised to your fans? You're going to hear it. You're going to get killed in the media. You're going to hear it from your fans. Just pump the brakes. Just give it. As I said to you when I watched that documentary or that behind the scenes thing with the Canadians that they put out last week, I text Pierre right away because Pierre has been texting back and forth with me about this all off season about some of these teams. And I said, Pierre, watch this video and tell me, is this what you're talking about how it should be handled? And it was the Canadians last year, the way they went into that season. And remember, Molson, all he said is, we hope to be in the mix. He didn't go further than that. Instead of, he just said, in the mix. That's it. And that's what they did. They went a little further than that. And then it looks even better when you can exceed that. But, and I also said to Pierre, and for our listeners out there, notice something right now. Everyone and their grandmother now is on the Canadians bandwagon and hyping up the Habs as they go into the season after the season they had and the off season they had. Have you heard one peep in terms of the Canadians hyping themselves up yet? No. I haven't.
No, and they won't. And they had every opportunity. When they got Zachary Bolduc, a francophone coming home, they could have pumped their tires. They didn't. Cool. When they got Noah Dobson, a kid from the Maritimes that played in the Quebec Major Junior League, they could have pumped their tires. No, they didn't. They just hired a video coach from Chicoutimi, which is this kid's got an unbelievable reputation. He's young. He's only 30 years old. But it's good. It's great. He's done his chores down at the major junior level, and he's getting an opportunity to come up and work for the Canadians in a video coaching role. It's fantastic. Nobody from the Canadians have pumped their tires.
Oh, I didn't even know until you just told me, Pierre.
They're just doing their work, and they're letting other people talk about them.
Exactly.
And that's so smart.
Yeah.
It's so smart.
It's great, especially in that market too. So good on them. All right, let's talk about Betway and get over to the Q&A because it is getting busy over there with the questions. All right, of course, you can still bet all the way with Betway. When you go there, you sign up for an account at that QR code there or at the details section on the website. And on your first bet, you can get up to $200 back, even if you lose. Now, I went over there today. They've updated all their NHL futures, so you can actually start betting some hockey. You can look at who's going to bet the Stanley Cup, who wins each conference, who wins the divisions, who's going to win the awards, even on percentages of teams to make the playoffs. So maybe there's a team that you think is some sleeper. You could find some great odds, throw $5. By the end of the year, it turns into $500. You never know. But go over to Betway right now. And, of course, terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus. It's not available in Ontario right now. And always bet responsibly. Let's go to the Q&A. What do we have? All right. Narig asks us, what's up, guys? I am concerned about Laine and Demidov defensively on the same line. Personally think our second line should have Bolduc and a third line with Anderson, so both have a true F1. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I don't think Laine and Demidov will play together. I don't personally. They haven't even had training camp yet. We'll see how it all plays out in camp. I think Bolduc's got an opportunity to play in the second line, but the Canadians are becoming a team where you don't really want to number your lines because you never know. And we'll see who the second center is. We'll see who the third center is. So I think it's a little early for that. I really do.
All right. Next question. David Robinson. What's up, Dave? Will Marco Sturm make an effort to give a healthy Hampus Lindholm more offensive zone starts than the previous coaches? Do the Bees have a defensive-minded enough core to outside of Lindholm to do that? That's a good question.
It's a very good question. First of all, I do think Marco Sturm will give him every opportunity. Hampus, that is, because you're familiar with him from when Marco was working out west, and obviously Hampus was playing in Anaheim, so you get to know those players quite a bit. That's number one. Number two, they need a healthy Hampus Lindholm. They desperately need a healthy Hampus Lindholm. And the third thing is, I'm not sure. I think the Bruins are a science experiment. We don't know where they're going to be. They're going to be a very interesting team to watch.
So two things, and I'm gonna give shout outs to two friends of the eye test here. I urge everyone, speaking of Hampus Lindholm, Paul DuPont had a great interview with him in the Globe this past Sunday in his Sunday notes. So check that out. He seems really motivated and obviously very motivated to get on Team Sweden and make an impact there at the Olympics. Secondly, our good friend Andy Brickley, he said something, I think it was their free agency show that Nesson did. And he was the only one I've heard to say this, and he's dead on. And look, do we think they need more center depth? Both Pierre and I agree on that. Yes, they do. But he said, who's taking Brando Carlo's spot in that right shot second pairing spot there?
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about that. And he goes, they're incomplete on D. You need to at least solidify that top four. And right now it's more of a top three. You've got, you got the McAvoy on the right there, but you've got nobody really to take the role that Brandon Carlo had to go with Lindholm on that second pairing. I thought that was an interesting thing there, and I wonder if the Bruins have tried or will address that, Pierre.
I still think there's a lot of stuff that Donnie has to address, and I think Cam has to address it too. Doesn't mean they can't do it because there's plenty of time left on the clock, but they're a science experiment right now. I think they're far from being done.
All right, next question. Juice _031017. Pierre, which NHL teams are you looking forward to watching the most going into this season coming up?
Montreal and Ottawa are two of them for sure. I'm really excited to watch Anaheim in the West. Very excited to watch Vegas, especially the chemistry or the potential chemistry with Eichel and Marner. I think Tampa still's got a big play left in the game. And I think if Tampa does some of the stuff I've heard potentially, that they'll be a fun one to watch. And I wouldn't go to sleep on Minnesota, and I wouldn't go to sleep on Columbus. I think both those teams are way under the radar.
Yeah, I'm surprised too Columbus is still slipping under the radar, given the year they had last year, Pierre. But, hey, they're going to be fun to watch again. I think they make the playoffs this year. All right, next question. Ali Noor Hamad. Can the Habs make the playoffs? Yes.
I think they will make the playoffs.
I think they will too. And the question now is, can they make it past the first round? And
yeah.
We'll see. All right, next question. Simo hockey training. Pierre, do you think the Hawks can make a push for the playoffs in the 26-27 season? So not this coming season. I believe they need to add the center ice position, especially a depth third or fourth line center.
I think, first of all, I apologize. I don't know your name, but I would tell you that's a really well-phrased question. It's really smart. I don't think the Hawks make the playoffs this year. I do think they push in 26-27. I talked to Jimmy about this, and I've talked to other people about it too. What I'm seeing now is NHL teams recognize the value of those third and fourth centers. Sometimes they can draft them, but a lot of times they're trying to get older guys that are more physically mature and more robust physically, and they're coming out as college free agents. And if you look at what a lot of these teams did, they're undervalued signings, and kids didn't get the NHL sniff. They start in the East Coast League, they start in the American League, and they're grooming them to be ready. They're not going to have 15-year careers or 12-year careers. They're probably going to have 5 to 7, maybe. But I saw a trend happening last year where people are recognizing the need for those third and fourth centers.
Yep. Perfect. All right, next question. Vincent Noel. Hello, gentlemen. I hope you are both having an excellent summer. We are. Thank you, Vincent. I hope you are too. I love the Habs moves, but I fear Armia and Dvorak leaving means Suzuki plays more in the PK. Who can step up?
I don't think they're going to do that to Nick. I don't. I think they recognize he's a legitimate candidate to be on the Olympic team, so they're going to be smart in terms of how they manage his minutes. He's going to get a whack of power play time. He might stay on the full 2 minutes on the power play, might play with the first and second power play. I think, if anything, he might take faceoffs to start penalty kills, but probably get off if they win the draw. Owen Beck, if he makes the team, is going to be an important part of it. Josh Anderson, Jake Evans, those are going to be key penalty killing guys. I think Zachary Bolduc can kill penalties if he's given the opportunity to do that. So I think you're going to see a team that's a little deeper than what a lot of the pundits are saying right now.
All right. And by the way, C-Mox says his first name is Jay, by the way. There we go. All right.
Jay, thank you. Very nice.
Thanks for coming here and joining the eye test.
Jay.
All right.
Really appreciate
Next question. Randy Workman, do you think the Stars are at the point of shut up or put up?
Yeah. I do. 100%. And I don't think that's being mean.
No.
You know, they've been knocking on the door for a while. It's a lot like Edmonton.
Yep.
Hey, you've been knocking on the door for a while, go do it. You know, Chicago knocked on the door and then they kicked it in. LA knocked on the door and they kicked it in.
Mhm.
You know, Pittsburgh knocked on the door and they kicked it in.
Yep.
So enough. Like, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. I think losing Mason Marchman is a big loss for them. I do.
I'm with you on that too.
I don't think, again,
He's a character.
I like to be full disclosure. I coached his father and I really loved coaching his dad. I did. And what I'll tell you is he's a tough kid, and the father was a tough guy, and this kid's a tough kid. And I think they're going to miss his size. I think they're going to miss his board play. He's a playoff style player. I think they're going to miss Mason Marchman. I do. I really do.
All right. Next question. Gabriel Lamb, is Detroit the team with the most pressure to make the playoffs? They haven't made the playoffs since they've been in Little Caesars Arena.
Oh, Gabriel.
Agree. We agree.
Gabriel, we've talked about this ad nauseum. I mean, and I hate to I'm a big believer in Steve Yzerman, and I think Todd McClellan's an outstanding coach. I really do. But I just don't know if they're going to be good enough on defense. I don't know if they're going to be robust enough on the boards, and they're going to win a lot of track meet games. But when it gets tight, are they going to be able to win those games? I don't know.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting team. And then get the Gibson, obviously the health issues there. If he can stay healthy,
was a big get though. If he stays healthy, he covers up some of those blemishes on defense. No question.
All right. Next question. Paul Cormier. What's up, Paul? You guys are the best. Thank you. Why is it so quiet on the Habs trade front? If Hughes is holding back, is Hughes holding back a blockbuster?
Remember now, they got to create cap room too, Paul. So one of the things to look for is the trading of Carey Price's contract. He's owed a signing bonus. He'll get that signing bonus from the Canadians. And then I think his contract becomes more digestible for a team that wants to get above where they need to be salary-wise. And they're probably, the Canes will probably add some draft picks to that to get his contract out of there.
Yeah.
So I would say look for something like that. I still think they're proactively looking. I really do.
Yeah, I'm with Pierre. I think once that's done, that will open up the floodgates a bit. All right, next question. Ian Lewis, personally, I don't see the Habs landing Mason McTavish. More accurately, I don't see them paying the ask. You agree? Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. And like I said this the other day when I was on with Tony Marinaro, I think it was last Thursday, maybe. Like it's a tall ask right now for him, Pierre. And also, I think you're going to have to give to get. We know that. And they probably are going to have to trade one of their prospects. But, Reinbach is a name we hear a lot. I don't think they're at the point where they want to do that yet.
I wouldn't want to do that.
He's part of that young nucleus. There's something to be said about that, Pierre. I think when you have young players develop together and sort of create a new culture within an organization, you would know better than me, but just from the outside, it seems like there's value to that you got to be really careful not to alter that as you're taking these steps.
I agree. I agree 100%.
All right. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Next question. Juice_031-017. Pierre, which former NHL player does Nick Suzuki remind you of the most?
They shoot different ways, but Joe Sakic. I've said this for a long, long time. I watched him play junior. I watched Joe play junior in Swift Current. Very, very similar. Very, very similar. Just they shoot different. One's right, one's left. But I'm telling you, and Joe's a Hall of Famer. I don't want to put undue pressure on Nick, but this kid's a heck of a player. And Joe, around the same time in his career, very similar. Very, very similar.
All right, next question. Alnor Amid, how good is Moritz Seider can be in the next few years? How good do you think he can be, Pierre?
Very good. He's going to be. He already is very good. He'll be in the top 5 probably year in and year out for the Norris Trophy. Wow. That's how good he can be, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins one. But this Miro Heiskanen is something else. Like, I'm just telling you. And that Cale Makar kid's pretty good, and that Lane Hudson kid in Montreal's not bad. And you start going around the league and look at some of the there's a lot of real good defensemen out there. Yep. That Victor Hedman still got game left too. Like there are a lot of guys that can still play. That Quinn Hughes is something else.
Yeah, and a couple young D-men coming.
Yeah, just saying, like it's hard, but Moritz Seider's very good.
All right, next question. Simo Cocky training. Pierre, how do you see Isaac Howard fitting in with the Oilers this year? As a Hawks fan, I wish they would have taken a run at him.
Yeah, And plus the connection with Michigan State, you know, they've been plugged in pretty good there with the Michigan State stuff and the Big Ten stuff in Chicago. But I think Stan Bowman, with some of his time off, also had a chance to watch Isaac Howard play a lot. He fits in really well. I think he'll fit in well in Edmonton. I don't think he's a centerman. I think he's a winger. I think it's early to put him on with Draisaitl or McDavid. I'd make him earn his ice time, but yeah, he's a good player.
All right, next question. Dave Robinson, will we see Zdeno Chara down the road in a GM or president role with the Bruins, or maybe even coaching?
I'd be surprised in the coaching stuff.
Yeah.
I could see other things for him internally.
I see, yeah, like maybe a hockey development.
Yeah, the coaching part, I don't know. I just don't know.
A trainer.
Well, get the guys in shape for sure. Here's what I do know.
Keep up.
I'll tell you one quick one that's inside baseball on Z. Earlier this year, he was asked to meet with an agent. I won't tell you who. An agent and probably the agent's top 5 or 6 players for a dinner. And Z went in there and spoke. And at the end of it, all the players were just blown away by levels of commitment. So, yeah, no, I could see him definitely being involved in something. I can't see him coaching in the NHL, but who knows? He can do anything he wants.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, listen, we got to wrap it up right now. We appreciate all your questions. Big thanks to Sean Shapiro for joining us. That was a fun interview. Pierre, you be good, my friend. And shout out to Shane, our producer up in Montreal. Thanks as always. And we will talk to you next week on the eye tests.
Hey, aren't we getting close to going every day now?
We are. We will. By the way, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to mention that. And I also want to mention our good friends at the Friendship 4 and Cara Group Travel. We're excited for that. Yes, Pierre, September 2nd will be our first day jumping back into that rotation. So from there on, we will be every day. So Labor Day, and then we're going right at it on the 2nd. And also next week, we have confirmed that Laval Rocket coach Pascal Vincent will join us here on the eye test. So you won't want to miss that. But until then, have a great week. Stay cool out there. And we'll talk to you next week on the eye test here on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the eye test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.